everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we are taking a look at a really interesting Deloitte study. It's called Employees as Customers, Reimagining the Employee Experience in Government.
Oh yeah, this one's a good one.
It basically asks, what if we treated our employees, especially in government,
Yeah.
with the same kind of care and attention that companies give to their customers?
You know, it's a really unique approach. The study actually encourages us to think about employee experience through the lens of customer experience,
Yeah.
borrowing strategies from marketing and design to create a more engaging and fulfilling work environment.
So are we saying ditch those employee satisfaction surveys and start thinking more like designers and marketers?
You got it. It's about proactively designing a better work experience instead of just reacting to complaints.
I like that. A proactive approach. So tell me more about this. How do they suggest we go about doing this?
Well, the study opens with a really compelling anecdote about Chris Cruz.
Okay.
He's the deputy CIO of California. And he was facing a huge challenge, high vacancy rates.
Oh, I bet that's a tough one.
It is. But instead of getting bogged down in complex bureaucratic solutions, he took a step back and asked, what are my employees actually struggling with?
Okay. So he listened to their feedback.
Exactly. And you know what he found? The biggest pain points were actually pretty straightforward. Lack of telecommuting options and training on new technologies.
Makes sense. Those are pretty common issues these days.
Right. So he focused on addressing those specific needs. And guess what? Vacancy rates plummeted.
Wow. So simple, yet so effective.
It's a perfect example of how a customer-centric approach can lead to real, tangible results.
So it's about focusing on those everyday pain points, the things that really matter to employees.
Exactly. And this study argues that this principle can be applied to the entire employee journey.
Okay, so how do we move beyond just fixing individual problems and create a whole new mindset around employee experience?
Well, one key concept the study dives into is employee segmentation.
Employee segmentation. That sounds familiar. Isn't that a marketing term?
It is. And that's the point. Instead of treating all employees the same, we can break them down into groups based on their motivations, work styles, career goals.
So kind of like how companies target different customer demographics with specific products and advertising?
Precisely. It's about understanding your audience, their needs, and tailoring your approach accordingly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be really powerful. Can you give me an example of how this might work in practice?
Sure. The study mentions Starbucks.
Oh, Starbucks.
They actually categorize their employees as skiers, artists, and careerists based on their work motivations.
Interesting. So skiers are looking for seasonal work, artists, more creative types, and careerists climbing that corporate ladder.
You got it. Now imagine applying that same logic to government agencies.
Okay, I'm imagining. Tailoring benefits, career paths, even training programs to specific employee segments.
Exactly. It's about moving away from that old one-size-fits-all HR model.
Towards something much more personalized and effective. I like it. So we've got this customer-centric mindset. We're segmenting our employees to understand their unique needs. What's the next step?
That's where design thinking comes in.
Design thinking.
Yeah, it's a problem-solving approach that puts the user, the employee, at the center.
Okay, so instead of making assumptions about what employees need, we actually observe their behaviors, we listen to their feedback, we use that information to design solutions that really work.
Exactly.
So it's like bringing that same level of user centricity that we see in app design or product development into the world of HR.
You got it.
I can see how this would be a game changer for government agencies.
The study argues that this is especially crucial for government agencies, which are often perceived as, bureaucratic and slow to adapt.
Yeah, for sure.
By embracing design thinking, they can create a more agile and responsive work environment, attract and retain top talent.
Okay, I sold. Design thinking it is. So where do we start? Where in the employee journey do we begin applying these principles?
Well, the study breaks it down into 4 key stages. And the first stage is what they call the decision to join.
The decision to join makes sense. We got to get people in the door before we can worry about anything else.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting. The study highlights the unique challenges that government agencies face when competing with the private sector for talent.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when it comes to attracting tech-savvy millennials and Gen Z.
Right. Government jobs don't always have the same cool factor as working for a tech startup or a trendy nonprofit.
Exactly. And I bet those outdated recruitment methods aren't helping.
You're telling me Think long, complicated application forms,
Ugh, the worst.
vague job descriptions, slow hiring processes.
It's a recipe for losing out on top talent.
It is. But the good news is some agencies are already starting to shake things up.
Oh, that's good to hear. Give me some examples. What are they doing differently?
Well, the intelligence community, for example, has created a website called Intelligence Careers.
Okay.
It features a job exploration tool that lets potential candidates easily search for jobs based on their skills and interests.
So it's about making the process more transparent and user-friendly, giving candidates a better understanding of what it's actually like to work in intelligence.
Exactly. And it's proving to be very effective. They've seen a significant increase in applications since launching the tool.
That's awesome. What else? Any other agencies getting creative with their recruitment?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, started placing job ads within the source code of websites frequented by developers.
Wait, what? Job ads in source code?
Yep. They knew their target audience was spending a lot of time there, so they went straight to the source.
Now that is thinking outside the box. So it's about understand your target audience and reaching them where they are.
Exactly. And then you have the Navy with their Project Architeuthis.
Project Architeuthis sounds intriguing.
It's an alternate reality game they created to attract people with a knack for cryptology.
Wow, an alternate reality game for recruitment. That's pretty innovative.
It was a huge hit, drew over 100,000 participants, and generated tons of buzz, helping the Navy reach their recruitment goals.
So it's not just about posting a job description online and hoping for the best. It's about creating engaging experiences that capture the attention of potential candidates.
Absolutely. It's about moving beyond the traditional job posting and thinking about recruitment as a marketing campaign with a clear target audience and a compelling message.
And I bet simplifying the application process itself can make a big difference too. Nobody wants to spend hours filling out forms or jumping through hoops just to apply for a job.
Right. The study actually uses L'Oreal as an example. They got rid of traditional resumes altogether. And instead, they just asked candidates a few open-ended questions to gauge their personality and potential.
Wow, so no more resumes. That's bold. Did it work?
It did. It streamlined the process and gave them a more holistic view of each applicant.
So it's about making the application process more user-friendly and less about weeding people out.
Exactly. And another interesting approach they highlight is the use of gamification in recruitment. Companies like Arctic Shores are developing game-based assessments that allow candidates to test drive the work and company culture.
Oh, that's cool. So instead of just reading a job description, you can actually experience what it would be like to work there.
Precisely. It's a win-win. It gives potential candidates a much more realistic preview of the job, and it helps employers identify candidates who are a good fit for the company culture.
And I bet this is especially beneficial for candidates with limited work experience, like recent graduates.
You got it. It gives them a way to showcase their skills and potential, even if they don't have a long resume.
Okay, so we've seen how some government agencies are getting creative with their recruitment strategies, from online tools and targeted advertising to gamification and streamlined application processes. It seems like the key takeaway here is that attracting top talent in today's competitive market requires a more proactive and engaging approach.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the needs and expectations of today's job seekers and creating a recruitment experience that is both user-friendly and compelling.
And now that we've explored the decision to join, let's move on to the next critical stage in the employee journey, the decision to contribute. We'll dive into that right after. Nah, you know what? No break needed. Let's keep this momentum going. What's the decision to contribute all about?
This stage is all about what happens after someone joins an organization.
Yeah.
How do you make sure they feel motivated, engaged, and empowered to do their best work?
It's all about creating that environment where people actually want to show up and do their best work.
Right. And this is where, again, that customer-centric mindset is so valuable. Just think about it. When you have a great customer experience, you're more likely to stick with that company. You recommend it to your friends. You might even spend more money there.
Yeah, totally.
Well, the same principle applies to employees.
So if we create a work environment that feels supportive, engaging, and fulfilling, employees are more likely to be productive, committed, and really invested in the organization's success.
Exactly. And one of the key things the study emphasizes is clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah, employees need to understand what their role is. What are their responsibilities? How does their work fit into the bigger picture? And what exactly is expected of them?
Makes sense. It's about making sure everyone's on the same page, working towards that common goal.
Precisely. And it's not just about setting those clear expectations. It's also about giving regular feedback.
Oh, the good old feedback loop.
Yeah, both positive and constructive, so employees know how they're doing and where they can improve.
I like that. So consistent feedback, but tailored to the individual. Makes sense. Any examples of organizations doing this well?
Actually, the study highlights a great example from the USPS, the United States Postal Service.
Okay, the post office, what are they doing?
They put in place a peer-to-peer recognition program. It was focused on these moments that matter for customers.
Moments that matter. Okay.
Yeah, employees could nominate their colleagues for going above and beyond. And it really had a positive impact on morale.
That's awesome. It's not just managers recognizing employees. It's about everyone feeling empowered to appreciate each other's work.
Exactly. And you know what? This simple program actually led to an 8% increase in overall employee engagement.
Wow, 8%. That's pretty significant.
Right. It really shows how powerful a little positive reinforcement can be.
I love that. Okay, so we've got clarity, recognition. What else? What are some other ways agencies can boost employee engagement?
The study also talks about the importance of giving employees more control over their work and their careers.
Okay, so think flexible work arrangements, opportunities to learn and grow, maybe taking on new challenges and responsibilities.
You got it. It's about empowering employees to actually shape their own career path and find meaning and purpose in their work.
Yeah, it's not just about punching the clock. It's about finding that sense of ownership and feeling like you're making a real contribution.
Exactly. And, this is where the study digs into the concept of job sculpting.
Job sculpting, that sounds interesting. Tell me more about that.
It's the idea that jobs can be tailored to better fit the individual's strengths, interests, and goals.
Oh, I like that. So you're not just stuck in a rigid job description. There's room for flexibility and growth within your role.
Precisely. For example, let's say you have an employee who is super passionate about data analysis,
Okay.
but their current role involves a lot of, administrative tasks.
Right, the stuff no one really loves to do, but it has to get done.
Exactly. But through job sculpting, their role could be adjusted. Maybe incorporate more data analysis projects. Let them really utilize those skills and interests.
That makes so much sense. Find that sweet spot where the organization's needs align with the employee's passions and talents.
Exactly. And that kind of alignment leads to greater job satisfaction, increased productivity, and a more engaged workforce overall.
It's a win-win, really. But let's face it, in any job, there are always those administrative tasks that can bog us down. How does the study address that?
You're right. And the study acknowledges that this administrative burden is a major drain on time, energy. It prevents employees from focusing on what really matters.
I'm glad they brought that up, because let's be honest, paperwork and red tape can be a real soul sucker. So what are they suggesting we do about it?
Well, one solution they highlight is technology, using it to streamline processes and automate those routine tasks.
Okay, so think things like AI-powered assistants.
Exactly. The study mentions X.AI, which is a bot that can schedule meetings for you. Imagine freeing up hours each week just by delegating that one task to a bot.
Seriously, that would be a game changer. Gives you more time to focus on the strategic, creative stuff.
Right. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And the study also talks about an Australian news company that made a really simple but impactful change. They created a single interface for all the different systems and platforms employees needed to access.
Oh, that's smart. One central hub for everything.
Yeah. It simplified their training process and just made everyone's lives easier.
It's about eliminating those unnecessary hurdles and frustrations, right? Making work feel less like a constant uphill battle.
Exactly. So, to sum it up, by reducing those administrative burdens, clarifying priorities, and giving employees more control over their work experience, agencies can create an environment where they feel motivated, engaged, and truly valued.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Creating a workplace where people feel good about showing up and doing their best work. Now, we've talked about attracting talent, getting them engaged, and now this decision to contribute stage. What's next on the employee journey?
Next up is the decision to improve. It's all about continuous learning and development, how organizations can help employees grow their skills and reach their full potential. And, the study actually highlights a big problem here. Almost half of federal employees are unhappy with the training they receive.
Whoa, almost half. That's a pretty alarming statistic. Why do you think that is? Why are traditional training programs missing the mark? That's a lot of unhappy campers. So why do you think those traditional training programs aren't cutting it?
Well, they can be really rigid, time-consuming.
Yeah.
It's like trying to cram way too much information into these long sessions.
Right.
And they don't always consider, different learning styles or what each person actually
It's
needs.
like a one-size-fits-all approach to learning, and we all know that doesn't really work.
Exactly. So the study suggests a more agile and personalized approach.
Okay, I like where this is going. More agile, more personalized. Tell me more.
Well, one concept they highlight is minimum viable training.
Minimum viable training. Okay, I've heard of minimum viable product in the tech world, but minimum viable training, I'm intrigued.
It's a similar idea. Think about it like this. Instead of giving someone a huge textbook and saying, go learn everything,
Right.
you give them the basic tools, just the essentials they need to get started.
So you're focusing on the most important stuff first, not overwhelming them with, every single detail right off the bat.
Exactly. And then as they gain experience, as they face new challenges, they can access more resources, more training as needed.
So it's like building a foundation and
Yeah.
then adding layers as they go. I like that.
It's much more effective that way. And the study gives a real-world example.
Mm-hmm.
The UK government's Department for Work and Pensions,
Okay.
they actually have a digital academy.
Oh, cool. Digital Academy.
Yeah. New employees go through a 6-week boot camp, focus on essential technical skills, and then, bam, they're thrown right into real projects,
Oh, wow. So they get hands-on experience right away.
working alongside those experienced team members.
Yeah.
Learning by doing.
I love that. Practical experience from day one.
It's proven to be super successful for them.
That's a great example of how a more agile and hands-on approach can make a big difference. But minimum viable training, that's just the beginning, right? How do we make sure employees keep learning and growing throughout their careers?
Well, that's where personalized feedback and development opportunities are key.
Okay.
So instead of just doing those annual performance reviews,
Yeah, once a year doesn't really cut it, does it?
the study suggests ongoing feedback, specific, actionable, and tailored to the individual's goals.
It's about giving people that targeted guidance that helps them pinpoint areas for growth and then come up with like a personalized plan for improvement.
Exactly. And, technology can play a big role here. The study mentions UPS, actually.
UPS, the delivery company, what are they doing?
They use sensors in their trucks to give drivers real-time feedback on their efficiency and safety.
Whoa, so it's like having a personal coach right there with you in the truck, providing those insights.
It is. And that kind of data-driven feedback is powerful.
Yeah.
Helps employees understand their strengths and weaknesses. They can make those adjustments to improve their performance.
So it's not about Big Brother watching you. It's about using technology to actually empower employees.
Right. And beyond that personalized feedback, we're seeing a rise in these micro-learning and peer-to-peer learning platforms.
Oh, yeah, those are becoming really popular.
They are. Micro-learning delivers those bite-sized chunks of information.
Perfect for those busy schedules.
Exactly. And peer-to-peer learning that allows employees to share knowledge and learn from each other.
It's like creating this continuous learning culture where
Right.
knowledge sharing and professional development are just baked into the everyday work.
You got it. And the study talks about how U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, did this really well.
Okay, ICE. Tell me more.
They had to implement this new investigation system.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of putting everyone through the same generic training,
Mm-hmm.
they segmented their employees based on, how they prefer to learn.
Oh, that's smart. Recognizing that different people learn in different ways.
Yeah. They offered online modules, in-person workshops, even peer-to-peer mentoring. It was tailored. And that led to high adoption rates, a smooth transition.
Okay, so they saw real results by understanding their workforce and offering flexibility in how people learn.
It's all about putting the customer, in this case the employee, at the center of that learning experience.
I love that. Putting the employee at the center. So we've talked about minimum viable training, personalized feedback, those new learning platforms. It seems like the big takeaway here is that to create a real culture of continuous learning and development, it requires a shift in mindset and a willingness to try new things.
It does. It's about moving away from those traditional training as an event models. We need to see learning as an ongoing process woven into the fabric of the organization.
I love that analogy, learning woven into the fabric of the organization. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, attracting talent, keeping them engaged, fostering continuous learning. But what happens when an employee decides to move on to a different role, a different organization?
That's where the decision to transition comes in. And it's really interesting how this study reframes that whole idea of employee departures.
Right. Instead of seeing it as a negative thing, it's like, hey, this is natural. People move on.
Exactly. And It suggests that agencies can actually turn these transitions into something positive by embracing the idea of tours of duty.
We talked about this concept a little bit earlier, but can you break it down for our listeners? Tours of duty, it sounds kind of military.
It does, but it's actually pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of expecting employees to, stay with the organization for their whole careers,
Right, the old company man model.
you create a model that's more flexible, where employees commit to specific projects or assignments for a set amount of time.
Okay, so it's like a short-term contract, but for a permanent employee.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging that, things change. The employee's goals might change, the organization's needs might change, and sometimes those paths diverge.
And that's okay.
It is.
It's a more realistic way to look at careers these days, right?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that tours of duty can be beneficial for everyone.
Ooh, I like those win-win situations.
The organization gets these fresh perspectives, maybe some specialized skills for a certain project, and the employee gains valuable experience. They expand their network.
Makes sense, but I can see how some organizations might be hesitant to do this. It almost feels like you're encouraging people to leave.
I understand that. But it's not about pushing people out the door. It's about creating a culture where people feel supported in their career journey, even if that journey takes them outside the organization.
So it's about creating that win-win. Employees feel empowered to follow their own path, and agencies can still benefit from their expertise and their contributions, even if it's for a limited time.
Exactly. And it's a great way to build those lasting relationships with former employees who, could become valuable advocates and partners down the road.
The study actually gives an example of this, right?
They do. They mention the Gates Foundation.
Okay.
They're very proactive about engaging with their alumni network. They recognize that these former employees, they often go on to do amazing things in related fields.
They're still contributing to the mission, just in a different way.
Exactly. And that's a smart approach for any organization, staying connected to that pool of talent, even if they're not directly employed anymore.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems like there's a common thread running through all these stages of the employee journey, whether it's attracting talent, engaging them, fostering learning, or embracing transitions. It all comes back to that customer-centric approach.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that employees are valuable, just like customers.
They deserve that same level of care and attention.
And when organizations make that shift, they create a work environment that's more engaging, productive, ultimately more effective.
And that's good for everyone. So to our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought. Think about how you can apply these principles in your own work or in your organization.
You don't have to do everything at once. Start small. Listen to your people. Try new approaches.
Be open to new ideas.
And don't be afraid to borrow from those other sectors: marketing, design.
You might be surprised how these principles can transform the employee experience.
They can.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.